Hello, and welcome back to Foos Entertainment for my review of Saw 5. Well, Saw 5, I think the best way to express my opinion of Saw 5, neutrality. What that basically means is I didn't love the movie, but I didn't hate the movie as well. I would say that there are, for the most part, the characters in the movie I don't care for. They're pretty annoying. In a lot of ways, they're very annoying. Much like the characters in Saw 2. But there are, obviously, a small pocket of characters that are actually developed okay in the movie. That, of course, would be our two lead subjects. One of them is a withdrawing drug user. The other one is a real estate agent. But throughout the film, they get pretty well developed, despite their limitations. Of course, Detective Hoffman is very well developed in this movie as well. Tobin Bell obviously does a wonderful job as Jigsaw, as always. But he had a lot more to do in the previous film with Saw 4 than he did in this one. But he's still pretty much at his prime. I would say that Betsy Russell, who plays the wife of Jigsaw in this movie, has a lot more to do. She was barely even not at that in the previous film with Saw 4. But this film does fall short of being like Saw 4 and 3. Just because it's too simple, in my opinion, not so creative. And that thing brings us to the premise of the movie, the plot. Taking place mere minutes after the events of Saw 4, Special Agent Strom finds himself entrapped within a Jigsaw entrapment of having a glass box on top of his head that's about to be submerged with water. Essentially, he's supposed to drown. He uses his wit and intelligence by cutting a slit in his throat, and then putting the butt of a pin in there so he can breathe out of his throat while being submerged underneath water. And obviously, following the events that take place at the same time with Saw 3 and 4, the neglected daughter from the vengeful husband and surgeon wife gets taken into custody. Obviously, all safe and sound. And then we go ahead and we see the backstory of how Detective Hoffman and Jigsaw met. And the story pretty much is this. Detective Hoffman had a sister, which was his only family. He was murdered by a abusive drug addict or some shit like that. And basically, he set it up to where it looked like his sister's murderer was actually a Jigsaw victim. Jigsaw discovered it and actually abducted Detective Hoffman. But he took pity on Detective Hoffman for his creativity. But he did mention that to Detective Hoffman that your work was inferior to mine. He actually made a little funny nod. It's like, if you wanted to make a real statement, you need to use, tempered steel. You use tempered steel. your pendulum was actually inferior because it wasn't tempered steel or some shit like that. Very, very interesting. The relationship between those two. I think it's safe to say that Jigsaw does not like Detective Hoffman really at all. But he finds him interesting. And of course, our victims and of course the chamber piece element of the plot are all connected by a project in the ghetto, I believe, in New York or wherever this film takes place, in which all these people that are test subjects were all a part of the scandal of. A journalist who covered it up, a rich boy's drug addict son, who had a lot to do with the development of the project, a real estate agent who wanted to get greedy off of the project, and a few others. I forget what their story was because it's been a couple days since I've seen the movie, because yesterday was busy, had to deal with domestic people, and today I am finally getting to this review after having a bunch of modeling done outside of the house. And the night before that I was just too tired to review it after reviewing Saw 4. So finally getting around to it. So I can't remember every little detail, but enough of the premise of the story. And basically, what's interesting about how it ends up in the end is no one was supposed to die during this game. Everybody was supposed to work together. That way they were all alive at the end of it. Because they all would have had to sacrifice just a little bit of blood to fill a big cup up with blood that would actually open up the door at the end. The door to freedom. But there's only 2 left by the end of the movie. Quite a few pints of blood they had to fill up, so yeah, definitely interesting. But that subplot routine was good. The subplot routine between Special Agent Strom and Detective Hoffman is interesting because Strom uncovers the truth and finds out that Detective Hoffman is actually Jigsaw's accomplice throughout the entire movie. And at the end of the film, Special Agent Strom is just, he's too rational. He doesn't think clearly, it seems, a lot. He doesn't really look a step ahead. He's not like, say, me, for example. I'm always a step ahead, or at least I try to be. Usually am, because I actually happen to be a psychological study of one of the rarest introvert personalities out there. I'm an INTJ. Only about 5% of the world make out that. And one of the things that we do is we actually analyze everything. Well, the Special Agent Strom did not really analyze stuff, I guess, at the end of the film, because if he would have had foresight that he thought things out, which he was doing pretty good at doing until the end of the film, he would have known to get into the glass caged bed and confine himself in there. And if he would have, Detective Hoffman would have been crushed by the room and crushing, in on itself instead of Special Agent Strom. But it was very ingenious how Detective Hoffman used Special Agent Strom's ego against him at the end of the movie. I thought that was very interesting. And of course, obviously, the truth gets buried with the demise of Special Agent Strom by the end of the film. So definitely interesting, the movie. But where it falls short on is it felt more dragged than the previous 4 movies to me in annoying characters. And you all know how I feel about annoying characters in movies. This is why I don't like Saw 2. Because every freaking character in that movie is annoying and irritating to me. And like I said, for the most part, the characters in Saw 5 were annoying to me. And I don't like annoying characters, especially crocheted ones. And there was a bit of that in this movie. Let's go on to audio and video quality. This one, still way over digital looking, but that's going to be the case with every Saw movie. They are filmed in a way to where it is way too digital looking. It's like we intended for this film to look like a digitally filmed movie. That's kind of the way to describe all the Saw films. This one goes back and forth. This is the interesting thing about Saw 5. It goes back and forth between a warm digital movie, which means it has a warm color template, while being overly digital, like a Fast and Furious movie. And then it goes to a cool color templated digital movie that looks kind of like the kind of like a movie, kind of like a transfer you would see with Universal's very failed attempt of capturing the nostalgicness of Halloween 2, or Anchor Bay's first failed attempt at making a new transfer for Halloween, with it being too cool, digital looking color template movie. It kind of goes back and forth between those type of movies. I think that's the best way to describe it. But overall, pretty solid high definition transfer, yes. But it does do that. It kind of goes back and forth. Audio. This film has a pretty good solid 5.1 Dolby Digital source track. Lots of good sound going around the room. Again, the speakers in the Saw films always sound like they're a character within the movie. And they actually use the speakers to tell the story in a lot of ways. Definitely like how there's a lot of effects to kind of fly around. It's like they're always intensified with these movies. It's kind of hard to explain until you see a Saw film, but once you do, you'll understand. That's pretty much my opinion on Saw 5. Due to a lot of stuff happening this weekend, I have to extend our reviews of the Saw films much later than I wanted. I actually had all intention to review the rest of them the weekend that we just passed. Now it's Monday. But I will get through them. I only had 2 more franchises that are essential for me to get through. They also have been voted on by friends, so it will be good. I would say that I'm definitely going to enjoy the next one, because I'm very curious to see what type of reaction I get with it, because it's actually a very interesting box set, and probably a box set you probably won't see too many people review because of the fact that it was so limited. That it was so limited that it's pretty much if you would have done this and you took too long to do that, you probably would not have had a chance to get the box set. The box set was originally limited to UK release only, but it had a short amount of time a couple of years ago in which it was released for a limited amount of time in the United States, and I was one of the ones that got it off of Amazon at the time, and it's definitely going to be fun. I don't want to give too much away, but I'll give you one little hint. My British accent only really comes out when I'm singing music, but the way I would describe the actor who plays the character in the franchise, I would describe sort of a British guy that has more of a voice that's a little bit more high-pitched, and all he has to do is just lower it down like this and do more of a Shakespearean opera and go ahead and simply do this. Will tear your soul apart. Now, people probably know